Bureau of Narcotics, but the director of that agency claims it could become much harder if California votes in November to legalize recreational marijuana use. The primary producer of research marijuana for the nation is right here in this state, and the director says that could create more addiction problems.
31-year-old Nick was on day 44 of his drug rehab when we talked to him. He says his addiction problem really got going when he tried marijuana.
Marijuana being a drug, that's really where it kicks in, you know, as the icebreaker part, because, ooh, I did a drug, you know, so that makes it okay to do more.
Nick says he did much more, going from marijuana to cocaine, crack, and pills. Critics of a measure in California to legalize recreational marijuana use argue it could create more cases like Nick. Supporters say it's time to try a different approach to the war on drugs.
Marijuana prohibition is not working.
There's also the promise that a legal, taxed marijuana trade could generate more than $1 billion for that cash-strapped state. 14 states allow medical marijuana use. NBN Director Marshall Fisher is accountable for trying to stop the illegal pot trade in this state.
Yes, we've had a few people who claimed that they had prescriptions for it and it was for medicinal purposes.
His agency alone seized 2,700 pounds of pot last year. A quick look in the evidence room at NBN shows how much of it dealers tried to ship here or through the state. He says legalization, even in California, is a bad idea.
Who gets to say how many joints the airline pilot gets to smoke before he climbs on a 747 and flies you from here to Dallas?
Yeah. Mississippi is accountable for all the research marijuana grown in the U.S. The project at Ole Miss is led by Dr. Mahmoud Isoli, who's considered one of the leading marijuana researchers in the world. Those 14 states where medical use is allowed, dispensaries or even the patients are given the okay to produce it for smoking material. Smoking it, he says, is actually the worst way to use it.
Well, first of all, it has over 500 different chemicals that we know about. There's more that we don't know about.
Isoli is trying to find better medical uses. For example, cancer patients say it relieves nausea from chemotherapy. He says a suppository is actually the best way of distributing that THC or tetrahydrocannabinol to the body that relieves pain and nausea without as much of a high, or even a skin patch between the cheek and gum.
Do you think marijuana is addictive?
Of course, for many years, people, we're not sure whether it's addictive or not. You know, they know, yeah, people get hooked on marijuana, but is it addictive? Is it scientifically speaking addictive? And the answer today is absolutely.
That's pretty accurate.
Dr. Joseph Griebler is a clinical psychologist and addiction specialist at the Mississippi State Hospital who says there are people who can use marijuana and suffer no ill effects. But he believes legalizing it will create more addicts.
If we legalize marijuana, okay, we're going to take the risk factor out of it. Therefore, we're going to have more individuals who are prone to using it.
Nick understands some people argue marijuana is not addictive.
Physically, I don't know if it's addictive, no. Mentally, maybe yes.
He's more worried about his recovery from a problem that started with alcohol and marijuana.
Alan St. Pierre is the executive director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML. He's a critic of Isoli, saying regarding the addiction claims, he's getting paid by the government to say that, and he's a private businessman who's trying to profit from the government mythology. Regarding the legalization argument, St. Pierre says 73 years of prohibition doesn't seem to work very well. Marijuana is one of the top cash crops in the U.S. He claims it's used by 1 out of 7 adults. In our web poll, we asked, should marijuana be legalized in Mississippi? And we're already getting results at our web poll. 56% saying yes, 30% saying no, and 14% say it should only be used for medical purposes. You can vote at WAPT.com and share your comments by calling the feedback line at 601-355-1616. And tune in for 16 WAPT News this morning. I'll give you a closer look at the marijuana research project at Ole Miss, the work scientists are doing there, and how it plays in this national marijuana debate.